Does anybody else feel like masculinity has slowly been drained from modern video games? I was looking at recent staff photos of Ubisoft and Halo Infinite developers, and it's all starting to make sense. It's a bunch of fat white liberal women. And white liberal women have no interest in masculine, manly, male characters.
What?
They wouldn't even know how to write one if they tried.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Is this real? Is this a real company photo? Oh, no, this is why the video games have been sucking recently. This is why we passed the heyday of awesome created games. Is it just me, or does it seem like we hit a stalemate? The graphics haven't improved in like 15 years. The gameplay has been real soft, focusing on these weird-ass soft storylines. And it makes sense. You look at who's creating these video games. Damn it, Ubisoft. You used to be a giant, baby. I remember Tomb Raider back in the day. Tomb Raider was the damn shit. But I can see an army of women like this striking down Tomb Raider because of her cleavage size. This looks like I'm at a Karen rally, baby. What is this? The nerve. And look at this one. Congratulations. Y'all messed up an incredible IP in Halo. Y'all messed it up. And no wonder how this can happen when you take a look at the staff. These people are not creating content within a game for their audience. And it's just so obvious when you look at who's the developers, who's leading the way in these studios. You're like, oh, of course, they're not creating games with a deep respect for the audience that are buying these games. They loathe masculinity. They admonish it. So of course they want to drive it out of games. This is absurd. Let's keep going.
This is why Rockstar, a company founded by men that at least in 2018 was still mostly run by men, created the magnum opus Red Dead Redemption 2, a game with a manly, well-written main protagonist, Arthur Morgan. If you want to see the seismic shift away from masculine characters, honestly, all you need to do is play a few games from 2006, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
It's way different.
Consider how many masculine military games came out in the 2000s. Medal of Honor, Call of Duty, Brothers in Arms, Gears of War, Operation Flashpoint, Rainbow Six, Ghost Recon, Splinter Cell. All of these games were starring men and had themes like brotherhood, duty, sacrifice, honor. Almost all of these franchises have either been killed off, turned into multiplayer games, or went woke.
And this is not just a phenomenon back in the mid-2000s. I mean, this is back in the 90s as well. But I guess the pendulum was swinging too far in the masculinity direction, which then caught enforcement via the content cops.
I often wonder why so few modern games appeal to me. And I think another big reason is this. Everything is just so gay now. Compare the games I just mentioned to the modern trash we have to deal with in Overwatch and Apex. Almost every character in these new games is either gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans, or something else. Like, what happened to a masculine dude with a hot chick on his arm?
Duke Nukem.
I love the idea of Xbox Game Pass, but I swear every time I open it up and look for new games, there's just so many games that look gay now.
Duke Nukem was an awesome game, man. I remember I used to walk into the basement. My dad would be playing Duke Nukem, and we would sit up for hours and play it together. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those nostalgic games. But this is some of the reason why you will never see Duke Nukem, at least in modern times today. All of his quotes, I remember most of these things. Die, you son of a... Hail to the king, baby. You know, with curse words and ish like this. And I remember correctly, you always had to try to save some girls in the mission. A game like this today will absolutely get that studio canceled.
I refuse to play another cutesy 2D platformer or a game with a cutesy art style by some indie developer anymore. I'm just done with these games. If you want my 100% real thoughts on this, I just think the entire video game industry has gone woke and gay. And almost nothing they are making appeals to me in any way anymore. So this is why I mostly play 20-year-old games on my channel, because they were just better. I was recently reading an insider interview about what went down at Volition Studios with the disastrous Saints Row reboot from an inside source. This source said that the LGBTQ community within the company was actually pretty small, but they are the loudest and the most annoying, and the company leadership chose to promote these people into key roles. And that's how you get the absolute dumpster fire of a game that was Saints Row 2022. I think what you have at a lot of these game studios is about 80% of the staff is probably just hetero dudes trying to do their job.
Right.
But they're afraid of speaking up or saying what they actually think. And then you have the LGBTQ folks making decisions about what kind of game to make. And everything just ends up being safe and soft and sensitive because, we can't hurt anybody's feelings. So, of course, you get these shitty dumpster fire video games that nobody wants to play.
Like terrible stories.
After reading a lot of insider interviews at these developers, this is my sense of what has been happening. I also feel like there's this kind of unholy alliance right now between games journalists, white liberal women at game studios, and the LGBTQ community at game studios. And they all seem to be united around one thing. They actually hate gamers. And who are gamers overwhelmingly?
Man.
Well, heterosexual dudes like us, of course. This recent Reddit thread was written by an actual game developer and made me realize this. It reads, headline,
"Am I allowed to say this? I kinda hate gamers."
Am I allowed to say this? I kinda hate gamers. You can say it, but I don't think it's gonna sway public sentiment in your direction. A game dev saying that they hate gamers is kind of like a car manufacturer saying that they hate drivers. Absurd. Let's read. I'm a professional game designer, and I'm worried that I'm starting to hate gamers. Watching the YouTube last month with the chat on was extremely disheartening experience. Every time a cishet white man appeared on the screen, the chats would fill with messages calling the game woke. Every game that wasn't a shooter or a hyper-casual competitive online game garnered Z's. And then I checked Twitter, and it's just people complaining that the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake is not yellow. And there's right ways and there's wrong ways to beat Elden Ring. And people hating on the new Dragon Age doesn't match the tone that they had imagined for it. I've seen people implying that the main character in the Fable trailers is ugly because it's some self-insert of someone working at Playground whom they've deemed not fuckable enough. I don't know, it's just the internet magnifying negative voices, I guess, doing what it does best, but I kind of hate gamers. Now, what's funny about this comment right here about the main character being ugly is that there are verified instances of game developers changing the look of a feminine female main character in order to either try to woke them up with like some LGBTQ sparkling or just ugly them up to seem more appealing, I guess, to other average looking women. I don't know. Or maybe it's just to not appeal to men that like attractive women. Case in point, I want you guys to take a look at this character right here. This is Poison Ivy in Justice League 1. And here goes the recreated version of Poison Ivy in Justice League 2. Why? Y'all made her look just like Greta Thunberg.
How dare you?
She looks like every feminist climate change activist Karen ever. Meanwhile, the developers complain that the majority male audience comments on how y'all uglifying women. And Ubisoft, who was called out at the beginning of this video, transformed a beautiful female model by the name of Humberly Gonzalez into this monstrosity in Star Wars Outlaws.
How dare you?
How do you get the deliciousness of this and transition it to this? What is this? Y'all gave her a butt chin, you took away all of the beauty, and you gave her homeless Karen hair.
So at this point, it seems that games journalists and all of the liberal LGBT mafia that work at game studios actually hate their audience. And this is a comment I keep reading from you guys again and again. I swear they literally hate us. They seem to be dead set on giving their audience exactly what we don't want. How long is your business going to be open if you're dead set on not giving the customer what they want?
Not long.
This is why when skanks like Alyssa Mercante are crying about Kotaku shutting down and losing their jobs, and game studios are going under because they were associated with Sweet Baby Inc., I just laugh.
Sweet Baby Inc. is a consulting company that forces DEI into games.
How dare you?
They dress up their efforts as if they're trying to promote diverse environment, but really they're just pushing a political agenda. When you go to Sweet Baby's Wikipedia page, you can see a list of games that they are currently or previously involved with. And look what I found. Looky here. Kill the Justice League. No wonder they had to change what Poison Ivy looked like. Apparently, the new version hit their approval standards. By the way, this is the new design of Mrs. Freeze in Kill the Justice League. Look at this. Look at this. Look at that haircut. That Karen haircut is a thing that will fuel nightmares. And you gotta pay money to purchase this character model. What audience of mostly male gamers is going to, to purchase this model? Y'all have to hit a bottom line of some point. It costs to make things like this and little to no return. You guys are running a business. Why spend effort in doing something like this?
Let them burn. Let all these companies burn who don't know how to give the audience. The wonderful irony in all this is that it's the very games that the woke cancel mob has tried to cancel that seem to do the best. Remember Hogwarts Legacy? Mm-hmm. Yeah, men who dress in women's clothes tried to get it canceled.
They did, yeah.
Instead, the game sold 25 million copies. Oops. Remember Elden Ring? Remember how the woke mob tried to accuse FromSoft games of having, quote, problematic depictions of women? Oops, sold 25 million copies. At this point, making an offensive game seems to guarantee that game's success. We could talk about Stellar Blade, pissing off all of the liberal progressives, and yet everybody went out and bought it. Okay, so in the rest of this video, I want to give you 4 examples of a game or game series going from masculine to feminine or gay, and it basically either killed or ruined the franchise.
Okay.
Number 1, Ubisoft and Red Storm Entertainment. So Red Storm Entertainment was a video game company founded by the legendary Tom Clancy to make Tom Clancy video games. He sold the company to Ubisoft in the year 2000, and Ubisoft in the 2000s actually had some balls and made some of the manliest games you've ever seen. Mm-hmm. There were the Splinter Cell games, the Ghost Recon games, the Rainbow Six games, and the Far Cry games. All of these games pretty much feature exclusively men, and these IPs in the 2000s had so much testosterone, just a single glance from a woman in their direction would get her pregnant. I mean, motherfucking Sam Fisher, come on.
He was the man.
Dude is the ultimate Giga Chad. Scott Mitchell in Ghost Recon. Now, you pick your own character in Far Cry 2, but it's definitely a manly game that will put hair on your chest. So what is Red Storm Entertainment up to today? Well, I recently saw that Tom Clancy's The Division Heartland is being led by a man who dresses in women's clothes in his free time. Now, look, I don't give a shit if you want to identify as a dragon and go around laying magic eggs, but can we agree that the least masculine thing on earth you can do is dress in women's clothes?
Yeah.
Tom Clancy would be rolling over in his grave right now if he knew the absolute disaster that Red Storm Entertainment had become. Number 2, Wolfenstein. So I was recently playing Wolfenstein The New Order for the first time, which came out in 2014. And I have to say, of all the games I was sure were going to avoid woke Western progressivism, this game was pretty high up there. The first 3 entries of the reboot were all fantastic. They had the badass BJ Blazkowicz, an absolute unit, as the main character, ripping apart entire armies of Nazis with the sexy and smart Anya as his arm candy and wife. Machine Game's first 3 Wolfenstein entries, which came out in 2014, 2015, and 2017, are all great. They have normal men and women doing normal shit in them. Awesome. But of course, the woke mob had to get involved somehow. So you have a beloved series with a beloved, tough, male, manly main character. Do you suppose it's a good idea to kill off that guy and replace him with cringy girl boss characters? Wolfenstein Youngblood came out in 2019, and it's an absolute tone-deaf disaster. So many modern video games, I find myself asking, who wanted this? Who asked for this? I often ask the same thing of the new Star Wars shows by Kathleen Kennedy as well. The Wolfenstein reboot had the perfect synergy of story and gameplay. You are BJ Blazkowicz, unleashing his rage on the Nazis for killing everyone he loved. You see this come across in his brutal assassinations, like sticking a rusty pipe through the eye socket of an SS Waffen commander. But the setup to Wolfenstein Youngblood is incredibly cringe. In it, you play as BJ's daughters, and they're honestly nothing like him. The first time you kill somebody, they don't really want to do it, and when they finally kill the guy, they have to have lattes and talk about it afterwards. Youngblood is a perfect example of how a cutscene can go so wrong in a game.
And they've done this within movies as well. From Captain Marvel to the Ghostbusters. Even that latest Men in Black had a female protagonist in it. The men are morons. They're all dumb. They will all fail, and the women just succeed by breathing and looking half decent. All of these IPs are now in disrepair. It is going to take significant investment to bring the core audience back. Go woke, go broke.
BJ's setup is perfect and explains to you why you're doing the actions you're doing. BJ's daughters, however, are acting like they're in an episode of Big Bang Theory the whole time. But oh yeah, they just happen to be killing Nazis and haha, isn't this so funny? It's tonally all over the place and just so full of cringy and awful cinematics, which is ironic because the cinematics in the first 3 games were like so good and short, and they got to the point and they were really emotional and impactful. Example number 3, Gears of War. For a full explanation of how the woke mob girl-bossed Gears of War, see my video on that game, but I'll keep this short. The first 3 Gears games are an incredible trilogy focusing on the bonds and brotherhood between men. They are incredibly masculine games, focusing on duty and sacrifice and military orders, and I know some of you hate this, but for 10,000 years, it's only been men fighting wars. Sorry. The first 3 games focus on Marcus, Dom, Cole, and Baird and tell a masculine story of brotherhood. Well, the progressive woke mob somehow got to Gears of War, and Gears 4 and 5 are about sisterhood, motherhood, being a traitor, and what it feels like to be a woman. They introduced the character of Kate Diaz, who I don't think anybody gives a single fuck about. What they should have done is put Kate in a spin-off game, not a mainline Gears entry. But here's the problem, of course, nobody would have bought it. So unfortunately, Gears 4 and 5 are basically girl boss, feminist Gears of War, and any masculine story about men is put on the back burner. Of course, the games include Baird and Marcus in them, but they're really on the back burner, and Gears is now about Kate Diaz, who I've never talked to a Gears fan even cares about. Moving on, example number 4, the Saints Row reboot. Saints Row spent 10 years building up characters and building up a very distinctive and edgy and male sense of humor. It's the kind of stuff you and the guys would laugh at. Some of the recurring characters in Saints Row are Johnny Gat, Julius, Aisha, Shondi, and several others. In these games, the men are men and the women are women. Johnny is edgy and hilarious and always has a hot chick on his arm. The humor is crude and hilarious, and the Saints are always getting into trouble. So what went wrong with the reboot? Well, the woke 2022 reboot thought it was a good idea to kill off every single character from the old Saints Row games, and I guess they thought we would be cool with that. But don't worry, all of the beloved characters you've come to know and love have been replaced with tokenistic characters from a literal seminar on diversity.
This is so crazy.
You've got the gay Asian man, the girl boss lesbian, another girl boss lesbian, and the gay black guy. The LGBTQ mafia didn't just kill Saints Row, they crucified it on a rainbow flag. And this is what you get, guys. This is what you fuckers get for supporting these people.
It's what should happen.
They turn out shitty games that aren't funny, that aren't cool, that aren't masculine. So stop hiring these people.
I was a little bit concerned that GTA might have suffered from this as well, but it was good to see that it looks like the developers reek of masculinity. But when they introduced that it was going to be a woman protagonist, a woman main character, that's where my mind went to initially. But it's not out yet, so it's too early to tell. But hopefully they introduce her in a way that their core audience resonates with, not this girl boss bullshit.
Game developers need to stop putting gay stuff in games, and they need to fire every liberal white woman if they want us to ever buy a game again. Because I'm serious, we are done with this shit. We're not buying these games. Like, Phil Spencer is out here complaining about how people aren't spending as much money on games anymore. I guarantee if you give us hetero dudes hot chicks in games again and manly men, you will see sales go through the roof. Bring back the glory days of video games. I have this theory that in a few years, we're going to see a turn back to the golden era of video games.
Without a doubt,
and people are going to start buying games again. I recently saw this crazy chart from 2023 that basically showed that people are only playing old games these days. Nobody wants to play anything that's new out right now because it's all woke and it all sucks so bad. So anyway, guys, let's all hope there's a return of masculine characters in games again at some point that we can relate to. All right, I'm out.
Fantastic video from Andy Pants Gaming. I'll leave his information down in the description box down below so you can check out all of his other content. I agree with everything that he's saying, except for the question of who killed masculinity in gaming. We know exactly who. But the thing is these companies, these businesses, unless they're getting affirmative action stipends to continue to do this shit, fund these studios, if they're not getting anything like that, then eventually, inevitably, they're going to begin to look at the bottom line and then make those shifts. You actually also see it in like Marvel with the recent string of wokish disasters because they're tied to Disney. At some point, they're going to have to get rid of these progressive people trying to fit square pegs in round holes, forcing content that the audience doesn't want down their throats. It's completely absurd. Guys, leave me some comments down below what you think about the content here today and what's your perspective on masculinity in video games today and what are you currently playing? Leave it down below. And for folks that don't know, I have a gaming channel. There's a link to it down in the description box down below. I'm currently playing Cyberpunk right now. Intermittently, I go up there and I have some fun. So if you're interested in that, click down and then turn on notifications so whenever I go live over there, you can be in the chat, all right? Until next time, YouTube. Peace!
You don't wanna see me get vexed. Bars on your phone, tell a man you can't jack. The big the ones who can't stretch. Breaking the neck when we in the car next. You don't wanna see me get vexed. Bars on your phone, tell a man you can't jack. The big the ones who can't stretch. Breaking the neck when we in the car next. That bar need a fibrillation ASAP. Get boxed with a straight gap. I'm reminded of mind state they lack. Every time that they climb, we go way back. All they wanna be is just